Thank you, Sheikh Femi, Yousefi Vili. It is my pleasure and privilege to speak with you here today, and I promise I will not delay you too long from your afternoon prayers. This may surprise you, but this is not where I usually spend my Friday afternoons. So it is appropriate to ask why I am here today. I asked to speak with you here today because I know that this is a difficult time for persons who practice the Islamic faith in this country. And I am here to assure you that you do not stand alone. You have a constitution and laws to protect your right to practice your religion, to protect you from discrimination and the denial of your equal rights, and to protect you from acts of violence that may be committed against you because of your religion or your nation of origin. And as the Chief Justice of the highest court in Massachusetts, as one who has sworn to uphold the Constitution and whose job it is to interpret its meaning and, where appropriate, to enforce it, it is only fitting that I be the one to bring you that message. In fact, you have two constitutions, the United States Constitution with its Bill of Rights and our Massachusetts Constitution with its Declaration of Rights drafted by John Adams in 1780, which is older than the United States Constitution and we think at times wiser, at least as we have interpreted it. Because we have at times interpreted our Declaration of Rights more broadly than the Bill of Rights, which is why residents of Massachusetts enjoy more rights than residents of many other states. The purpose of a Declaration of Rights is to protect the rights of the minority, of those who are unpopular, even perhaps despised because of who they are or where they came from or what they believe or what they have done. The popular majority does not need a Declaration of Rights. They have the legislature to protect them. We in our judiciary recognize our obligation to enforce those rights where they are abridged, regardless of whether it is popular to do so, sometimes knowing it will not be popular to do so. And based on what I know about our Attorney General Maura Healey and our District Attorney Dan Connolly, I am confident that they will stand with you to prosecute your cases if and when your civil rights have been violated. And based on what I know about our bar associations, the Boston Bar Association, the Massachusetts Bar Association, and the attorneys who comprise those associations, there are attorneys who will help you to protect your civil rights, even for those who are too poor to afford to pay them. In short, you have a constitution, two constitutions, and if the need were to arise, you should not be afraid to use them. I also bring you a second message, not so much in my role as Chief Justice, but as someone who is very old and a Jew. The Old Testament many times reminds us, once we were strangers in the land of Egypt, and that line is the centerpiece of the Jewish holiday of Passover. I think of that phrase often, because I know that once my forefathers were strangers in the land of the United States, as were the forefathers of nearly all of us, and many of us were not so welcome here. In the 1840s and the early 1850s, this country was not so welcoming to the influx of Irish Catholics escaping the potato famine in Ireland, and the anger towards those immigrants gave birth to a party appropriately named the Know Nothing Party. And Massachusetts was among those states that passed anti-Catholic laws, including a 2-year residency requirement after naturalization to delay a new citizen's ability to vote, and a law requiring public school students to read from the Protestant King James Bible. For nearly a century, until 1965, our immigration laws were designed to prevent Chinese and Japanese from entering this country. During the Great Depression, Mexican Americans were scapegoated for the economic deprivation they did not cause, and more than 2 million were deported to Mexico. By some estimates, more than half were born in the United States and therefore United States citizens. The prosecution of Sacco and Vanzetti, who were both Italians and anarchists, triggered fear and dislike of our Italian-American community. The loyalty of German Americans was unfairly questioned in both world wars, as was the loyalty of Japanese Americans. But it was only the Japanese who faced internment in World War II. I need not tell you that the forefathers of our African Americans came here in chains, and that the legacy of slavery and of Jim Crow still burdens us to this day. But African Americans were not the only ones who faced lynching in the American South. Leo Frank, a Southern Jew falsely accused of murder, also died from lynching, and his death in 1915 gave birth to the Anti-Defamation League. If you add up all those who were Irish Americans, Italian Americans, German Americans, Asian Americans, Mexican Americans, African Americans, Jewish Americans, all those who were once strangers in this land of Egypt, you end up with the vast majority of this nation. So I hold firm in the hope that if we remember who we are and where we came from and what we once endured, if we remember that we too once were strangers in the land of Egypt, the vast majority of Americans will stand arm in arm with Muslim Americans, and together we will get past these troubling times. And until that happens, we still have our Constitution and our rule of law to protect us, and lawyers, prosecutors, and judges prepared to apply those laws to ensure our rights. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak before you.